Okay, we have a book here, Annabelle of Anchony, Burdens of the Mind by Ruth Apollonia. Ruth, your new book, it's going to be coming out next year, actually. This is an advanced copy, right? So it may look a little bit different. Your first book, your second book, your fifth book?
This is the first book, but it's the first book in a series. The Marion Press is going to pick it up, so it'll come out summer of 2019. That's when it's supposed to come out. So.
Tell us about this series, about Annabelle of Anchony.
Okay, so my spiel for the first book is, it's a Christian fiction fantasy that takes place in the 13th century. A little girl is kidnapped and taken to an island where she runs away from kidnappers, and there's a man on the island who raises her and teaches her how to survive, how to defend herself, teaches her about the sacraments and what she's missing by not being where there are priests. Then eventually she gets off the island and she has to find her way back home. So of course the story keeps going from there, because that's just like the first third of the book. So it goes on from there. So
it's just a little girl. Where is she kidnapped from? Where is she from?
So it's a fictional place called Anchony. It's a kingdom. So it's in the 13th century. So it's times of kingdom, kings and knights and all that.
So
chivalry.
Certainly a fun time to be alive, especially if you're reading about it and not living it.
Yeah, exactly. With no indoor plumbing and
yeah, people talk about the good old days. I remember the good old days. My father would the remote control of the house was my father calling me downstairs, Peter, change the channel.
Oh, yeah.
But so, what gave you the idea of doing a book set in the 13th century?
Well, first of all, I wrote the book to evangelize, and so when I started writing the book, I was writing it just for myself, and it was the time when the Harry Potter books were being made into movies, and the Da Vinci Code book was all the rage, and I haven't read any of them, but I heard about how they could potentially lead people away from Christ.
Well, the Da Vinci Code especially. I mean, people were taking the fiction of the church as fact, which was very bad.
Yeah. So I thought, well, why can't there be fiction that leads people closer to Christ? And so that's kind of where it started from there. And so I was like, what kind of situation would you be in if, all you had to do was to learn about faith all day? And so that's kind of how Annabelle ended up on an island. And then of course there had to be someone on there who could teach her. So that's where Peter came in, who's the man that raises her. And so it kind of just grew from there, and honestly it had to be the work of the Holy Spirit, because I'm not that creative.
So you hadn't been writing before, you just thought, gee, there should be something else, and here it is now.
Yeah, well, I had, when I was younger, I had kind of just handwritten a story, but it was just, but I've always liked books, and I've always liked to read. And I always thought it would be cool if I could write a book, but it was never like a goal of mine, anything like that. So
it must have been really something when you see this, when you hold this in your hand. It's got to be It's really got to be something to say, this is my book, this is my story that I've talked about all these years.
Yeah, and what especially is because I have the second and the third were published prior. They're not available right now though. And then I have the fourth one, so altogether it's like probably like a thickness of this, this wide, and I'm like, where did that come from? I don't even know. So it had to be from the Holy Spirit.
And you wrote this over a course of how long?
The first book, I think I started it in about 2006, 2007, and it came out, it was first published I think in 2012. So about maybe 6 years, 5, 6 years.
And then Anna Maria Press picked it up and decided, hey, this deserves more.
Marion Press.
Marion Press,
I'm
sorry.
Yeah.
Marion Press.
I used this copy that you see is from a vanity press that has since closed, and they claimed they were a Christian company, and they did not have very good.
Well, we had an author we talked about earlier about Christian values in business, which maybe you can send the defunct people a copy of.
Yeah, well, they are. The state of Oklahoma they're in trouble with the state of Oklahoma. Let's just put it.
We'll leave it. We'll leave it at that. But the book is Annabelle of Anchony. Burdens of the Mind. First of 4 volumes that have
at least 4.
At least 4 volumes put out by Marion Press. And we should expect to see the first one?
Summer of 2019.
Summer of 2019. And they'll be able to find that on Amazon, at Marion Press, and where, anywhere place else?
Yeah.
Do you have a website?
Well, I think it's, I don't have one right now, but the Marion Press is shopmercy.org.
Shopmercy.org. All right, Ruth Apollonia, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
All right.